Back?
Yes. Okay, go on.
Cool. So I'm Guillaume Cabane. I'm a growth advisor. And before I talk 2 minutes about myself, I want to take a step back, and I want to all of us ask ourselves, like, how do B2B sites work? If you take a step back, and this is a quick schematic, of B2B sites. And generally what we see is that you get some kind of like top funnel demand gen, like ads. You could think of inbound marketing as the same thing, which drives through a landing page, which itself drives to a form. And then we follow up with an automated thank you email. The lead is routed to your CRM. Then like some magic happens in the lead routing, and salespeople are trying to see, like, am I going to call this lead, yes or no? And then if they think it's qualified, they follow up. And this entire experience, when you think about it, it's a sad experience for everyone involved. Because if you think about it, it's just like if you walk into like a shop or a store, like you'd expect someone to like help you immediately, address you immediately, not follow up like the next day. And online, there's actually a really good study from HBR in 2015 that shows that the time to follow up is highly correlated with the conversion rate, very highly correlated. And so if you can follow up faster, you'll have higher conversion rates. But even if you think about it, this experience, it's not great, right? So no one really wants this experience, and no one really wants to have to go through a contact form, and salespeople actually don't get a lot of insights, right? And so today I want to actually kill the contact form and make this experience 10 times better. Now that I've said that, a quick 2 minutes on who I am. So I've built multiple growth teams, more recently at Segment and at Drift, and I specialize on companies between 50 and say 300 people. And these days I am a growth advisor at a number of companies, of which you'll find probably the biggest one you'll recognize here is G2. And throughout the past couple of years of my career, I'm probably best known for having created what we call these days the reveal loop, which is a process to identify anonymous visitors on your website, which companies they work for, and follow up with them through email and other platforms, right? To kind of start killing this dreaded contact form. And not only that, but if any of you have seen something like that, where we inject the name of the company in the live chat, you see, hey, like your company name, can I ask you a quick question? If that has annoyed you, well, for that, I am sorry, because I'm the creator of this thing, but I have to admit, it works really well. This injection of personalization in the live chat real time have brought us a lot of money. So that said, let's go back to the problems that we face, right? And what's number one? What's the 3 top problems that marketers face, and how I'm trying to solve them? When I think about that, I really usually see those 3 problems, right? We are facing like a saturation of channels, right? And I'm going to show you what I mean by that. Our CAC, our cost of acquisition, is going up big time, and unfortunately, our LTVs, our lifetime value, are fairly stable. So when you look at the CAC, right, over the past couple of years, over the past 5 years, our CAC has grown about 50%, right? Which is a dramatic increase. And some channels have say the CAC has grown more than others, but I do like acquisition across multiple companies, and I see that everywhere, right? And as you can see on the chart, both for B2B and B2C. And the problem is that the money we make, the revenue we have from a given customer, from a given prospect, is maybe not as fast as this chart shows, but definitely not increasing by 50% over the past 5 years, right? And so we're kind of going to hit into a wall, right? And we're going to run fast into that wall, right? And we're throwing a ton of money at acquisition. Often marketers have the biggest budget in the company, right? And when we face that kind of like increasing CAC, we're throwing more and more money at it, but it's not really sustainable. right? As you can see, it's not really sustainable. And when you look at the KeyBank Capital survey from 2018 on 163 companies, what you see is that we lose money on new customers. Check it out. Like we spend $1.13 to acquire $1 of new revenue, right? And the margin that we make in SaaS comes mostly from upsell and expansion. Okay, and this doesn't even account for churn, right? So our time to recover is generally above a year. So this is becoming like extremely competitive, right? And so when you look at the let's say the growth scatter, you'll see to the bottom right that the companies that are, let's say, growing the slowest, so close to 0% growth, are those that are, let's say, spending the most money to acquire a new dollar, which makes sense. They have hit that wall, right? They no longer can break through a channel through sheer spend, right? And the opposite is true at the top, I'd say left. Okay, but so it means for most of us, we're gonna hit that wall, or we know we're gonna hit that wall, and we want to avoid doing that, right? And so when you look at how say the top CMOs are solving that problem, they are reducing their spend on labor, they're reducing their spend on paid, on agencies, and they're increasing their spend on marketing technology. Okay, so what does that mean? Okay, well, if you ask me, it means that the solution, and I'm going to go into MarTech, is to start differentiating your actions, right, before your competitors, trying to having or creating a unique experience. Okay, I think that's the one thing that I want you to take away here, which is if you work for a company that has a great product, you believe in that product is differentiated. That is very important. That product is differentiated, and I hope you believe it is better than your competitors. The question is your marketing differentiated? Are you doing things differently than your competitors? Because if it is not, then you're not creating a moat through your marketing. Okay? So look at your funnel. What does it start? A usual funnel starts looks like this. And you have the acquisition, the engagement, the sign up, the activation, the conversion, right? And so it usually starts at the top, right? And the challenge at the top, like we are all doing the same things. We're all doing some ads on AdWords. We're all doing some inbound marketing, maybe a bit of SEO and virality and a couple other channels, like not very differentiated. And so we can't really create that moat. But there's a question, what happens before people land in your funnel, right? What's up there before people land on your site? And people exist. The prospects, the leads don't just pop into existence at the moment they come on your website, right? And our good friends at Google shared some data in 2015, which is B2B buyers do 12 searches before engaging with the brand. 12 searches, which kind of makes sense. It can feel like as a lot. It can feel like, wow, 12 searches before engaging with my brand. Wow, it's a lot. Well, actually, I looked it up. If you look for salt, right? So the image to the right, there's a 375% year-over-year increase. Sorry, over the past 2 years, increase in best salt on mobile devices, which is insane, right? Like, who's looking for like best salt on their smartphone, right? But it's just a trend. People are looking up. They are looking up different opportunity options for everything. Of course, for hotels. Of course, for flights. For restaurants where you go to. And that has happened also to B2B. So the B2C shift that we're seeing, the shift to testing, looking reviews, it's happening to B2B. That's just how we do research these days, right? It's the same humans, right? It's the same process that we have, right? And the consequence of that for us is that the buyers, they want control, right? And we need to give them that control. And that control means it's going to take longer, right? On the 1,362 companies or surveys that GCredit has done, shows that a major purchase decision takes between 1 and 3 months. That's where you can see the distribution here. Right, so it's taking a long time. So if we go back to this, like those 12 searches, and we kind of like graph them out, you think of like, well, I have a product. I can take the example of one of the companies I helped called Gorgias. They have a help desk for e-commerce Shopify stores. Well, it's a good product, and so people are likely to think this is interesting. They might not be convinced that they want to buy it. They might think it's interesting, and on the vertical axis from 0 to 1, where 1 is conversion and 0 is no conversion, having a good product brings you somewhere up along that vertical axis. You can say, just imagine it's like 20%. It's what we call the user fit. How good is this prospect, or are you for this product? Do you have the right problems and challenges that this product solves? Okay, and you're going to start the research. All right, so the research process, you're going to visit third-party websites, you're going to discover the market, you're going to visit your website, you're going to do a self-discovery of the product, register for a trial, and maybe you're going to have some emails or a phone call or a demo with a sales rep, which is, what we start measuring as marketers as the user behavior. Okay, we generally start measuring the behavior after the point of trial. Maybe after the point of the website, but never during the discovery of market, because they're not on our site, right? And if you want to think of like, where are the reveal loop that I have created? It's there. I created the reveal loop to complement retargeting in the pre-trial, so post-website, but pre-trial, which is like trying to identify which are the companies that are qualified, that are expressing some level of intent, like going to my website, and send in some emails. Okay, but that's interesting. Like, what do we do here, right? And the truth is, we wait. We do nothing, right? We wait for the people to come to our site, right? And so if we go back to this, like the question is like, what happens here? During those 12 searches. So let's expand this a bit. Let's think through the discovery of market phase. And that discovery of market is what we have now called signals. Okay, and there are like a couple of different signal types when you think about it. They are, let's say, explicit signals. So coming to your website is not one. An explicit website is going to be filling a form on your site. Is it going to be starting a live chat? If you have a phone number, it might be calling. They are making an explicit behavior that they want to talk and that they're interested. And then we have implicit. Implicit is going to be visiting your sales page, reading multiple reviews, reading multiple blog and articles. Okay, the explicit is it has a high conversion but a low volume. The implicit has a high volume but a low conversion, and most of the time we don't know about them. Let's see how we can get data on implicit signals. A couple of examples. So if you look at those that are proprietary, we can think of G2, for example. And so for those who don't know, G2, it's a review website for business software. And they have a premium subscription that lets customers get IP traffic data each time your logo is displayed on a page, on a category page, on a competitor page, or you name it, right? And you can see here that if you look at the center column here, Informatica, this is what, as a premium customer, you would see. You can see a number of visitors for this given company, Informatica, that are looking at your product or at your competitor product or at the category page for live chats. And you don't need to be a very smart sales rep to see that this is an amazing signal, right? You can see there's a buying process happening. You got to call them now, right? And then once you have that, you can sync it, of course, to your CRM, your marketing automation, or just like send an email to the right buyers at the company. And for those of you who know Product Hunt, which is a fairly popular site where people are posting products, there's a free API where you can see who has voted the product, your product, and maybe they are not customers and you would want them to become customers, or even your competitors, right? And you can just pull all of that and say, hey, like if this person has voted a competitor, maybe they're customers, but maybe they're not, and they just like the product, and maybe we should talk to them. So those two are very specific traffic insights. They are like they are owned properties. You also have companies that offer, I'd say, a broader traffic insights. If you look at Bombora is a company that has partnerships with a few thousand websites that publish business content. You're going to see like the Wall Street Journal, you're going to see CNN, Time, a couple of others, right? And they gather the same strategies. Like they gather the IP address, they find the company, and then they start aggregating, which companies and how many people from that company has read what topic, because their little crawlers will go to the same page and figure out, what the text means and what are the keywords on that page, very much like Google. So, and then they sum that and say, well, there's like 5-10 people from this company that are reading about this topic over this time frame. And so it creates kind of like a bell curve analysis where you have at the far right, some people that are consuming more of a specific topic, right, which is what they call a surge, which is pretty cool because then you can start having like really top of funnel, very top of funnel, I'd say intent. Okay. There's also things like web technographics, right? And one of the best knowns here is as Datanize. And what technographic means is the technologies that are installed on a web page. So the JavaScript or other pieces of code that can be analyzed and linked to a specific technology, right? And so if you think of, look at Datanize, for example, I can see here that on this website, boardgamegeek.com, Shopify was installed on July 23rd, 2019, and was last seen on December 8th, 2019, with a high confidence. You can start doing some things around like, well, if I'm selling, and this screenshot was taken on December 8th, I'm sorry, so this is current. Something, well, they just migrated, or they migrated recently in the past couple of months to Shopify. If I sell a Shopify plugin or a Shopify help desk like Gorgias, this is a new potential customer. And hopefully they have not yet, I'd say, covered all their needs Shopify-wise, right? But if you are not in that time frame, you can definitely reach, if, for example, if we compete with Zendesk, and Zendesk was installed some time ago, I can try and figure out when the renewal happens, because it's every year. And so I can just take 10 months after the last renewal and reach out saying, hey, you've got a renewal coming up. Are you still happy? Which is a great way to compete. There is also an up and coming tool which I like a lot, which is called Sonar. And Sonar gives you pain signals. One of the examples that I love that they do is that they scrape the UPS and FedEx websites, among many other things. And they're going to look at which companies are impacted by delivery delays, right? And if they are impacted by delivery delays because there's a snowstorm, for example, you can reach out to this company saying, hey, you're going to have an increase in the number of tickets. And you're going to have a lot of people reaching out with a question such as, where's my order? Where's my package? Right? And that's something that we can help with, right? And so they actually specialize in detecting all of those pains as they happen or just before they happen, which is quite amazing. You also have like hiring data, right? I have a couple of companies here. I'm going to present Predict Leads. Predict Leads actually scrapes the Alexa top 1 million, maybe a bit more these days actually, websites in the US, and looks for the job boards, the slash jobs or slash careers of all of those companies, and has natural language processing and identifies all of the postings. And then you can do a query. You can get alerts saying like, hey, I want a data analyst, or I want a VP of sales, VP of success at such and such companies, and you will get an alert, JSON or an email, whatever you want, that tells you, hey, this company has just posted such a role. And I can tell you through working, with B2B software of the past 10 plus years, a new hire intent is always highly correlated with a buying motion. You don't hire an executive person and don't give them budget, don't give them leeway to buy software. That does not happen. Okay, so that person's going to come in, and that person's going to want to make some changes. Okay, and you better be the person that is offering them solutions to look good in the first couple of weeks or months in their job. Okay, and you can also look at, if you have an existing customer base, you're going to have about 15-20% of turnover in that customer base. I'm not thinking of churn. I'm thinking of individuals who leave that company. And that's, you have 15-20% of individuals who leave that company every year. The average tenure in the US is like 4 years. So, you can compute that back to, about 20-25%. And they go somewhere else. And if you work in tech and you leave your company, you're going to stay in tech, right? And so the question is like, did they like my product? Did they have a high NPS? If they have a high NPS, well, I should reach back. And I should say, hey, you liked our software, you went to a new gig, congrats to the new gig, how can we help you? And of course, the best signals are custom signals, custom scraping, and social engagement. A couple examples here. If you look at, for example, LinkedIn, we can scrape the upvotes and the likes, the comments, and find all of the people that have engaged with a given post, and follow up on LinkedIn with a DM saying, hey, thanks for engaging with the post from our VP of marketing. How can we help? Examples also like scraping job postings on Upwork. Same thing, and finding out who's looking for contractors on Upwork. If you specialize in product software that is linked to advertising spending, you can get that data from SEMrush. And SEMrush is going to tell you, if you look back at Informatica, how is the spend increasing or decreasing over time, which keywords they're buying, which pages it's sending to, who they compete with. And if AdWords is not your turf, but it's Facebook, great. Facebook now has the Facebook ad library, which is a public page. We can look up any advertiser, that's part of their settlement with the DOJ. Like, you can find any advertiser in the US and figure out which ads are they running. And as you can see here on the screenshot, you see the start running date. And so I can scrape that. I can count the number of ads that are published over time to see how much effort are they putting at refreshing their ad copy, their ad creatives, which gives me an insight into how important is Facebook for them. Okay, and so if you think of all of those things, just put a couple of logos here. You can think of all of them, those that are relevant for you. You can walk backwards from the visit, which was the expressed intent, into the non-expressed intent, and start, let's say, acting on that intent. Start doing the enrichment and the outreach. Okay, I want to give a couple examples of like how you can start leveraging that. The obvious one is you're gonna look for the right contacts, the right profiles, and you're just gonna send them a very qualified email. And the one thing I want to say here about a qualified email, you should totally inject the data from the intent. You discovered something. So imagine like they're hiring a VP of sales and you sell a live chat tool. So like this is the right buyer. Right? You should inject that. Congrats to you. If they're changing technology and you support the technology, you should inject that too. Right? It's going to make your email much, much more relevant. And we do that like when we scrape like the FedEx and UPS websites, and we know that there's going to be delivery delays, we tell them that. Okay, and email is just one possible channel. If you go back to what I said earlier, which is you got to create a unique experience that is differentiated and so much better than your competitors. I want to give you an example of how you do that with live chat. And so this is an experience created a couple of years ago for people coming on our website, for which we had an insight into their intent and the value of the company, because we could score real-time each visitor and know how valuable they are to us. And so we wanted to invest more and create a better experience. And so instead of saying something like, hey, how can we help, which isn't great, we created something which is, how do you like your coffee? And it's a bot, right? And it asks on the page for those highly qualified visitors, how do you like your coffee? Which is insane. It's an insane question to ask, right? And so people would engage. They would say like, what the hell? What do you mean? What is this thing? And as a marketer, when a highly qualified visitor engages with me, I win. So this thing actually creates a hot drink order. So it creates an order form and actually sends it to Sendozo, which sends it to Postmates. And we actually delivered coffees out of the top cities in US. And it's like $15, $20 ish to deliver a cappuccino to any person in most cities in the US, which is a great CAC to create a memorable experience for the right buyer. Okay, and if you can't do it real time, that's okay. You can use Sendozo to send, let's say, handwritten letters. That's a $5 investment. A handwritten postcard sent to anyone in the US, it's $5, and the open rate on those are really, really good. Okay, so the goal really is to know which companies to contact and compute your entire time, compute your entire total addressable market, know which ones are valuable, and be like a hawk, listening as those that are expressing intent clearly, or who are just behaving throughout all of those signals we talked about. I want to share a couple of results that I haven't shared before, and I want to share that with outbound. And so this one company has two types of outbound campaigns. It has what we call like manual campaigns, which is like pure cold outbound, like this is a good fit company. And it has outbound for accounts that are expressing intent, like technology changes, hire changes, and so on. The open rate is about the same, kind of makes sense. It's based on it's mostly based on the subject line. The reply rate is much better, but the deal creation rate, so the opportunity creation rate, is 3 to 4 times higher, right? And so the value per account, per email we send is about 5 times higher. And you might think, wow, this is like great emails, because like our top campaign has like an 18% reply rate, which is crazy, right? And no, it's not so much the email. It's that we know those people are in the buying process. And so of course, the op creation rate is going to be much better. But it's a combination of us knowing who, of us computing the value, and being able to reach out to them through multiple channels with an experience that is better than all of our competitors. So if you think of our competitors are going to like do an average campaign with an average spend, and maybe they're going to be able to touch them, but not nearly as well as I touch them, and not with the same quality or the same engagement. Okay, so we capture all of those signals and we fan them out to all of those channels. And so what it means is that you got to be able to invest more on the accounts that are showing intent. And so if Jenny, has let's say a higher predicted value, you predict her value should be $1,000, you should be able to spend $300 on her. But if Bob at the far left, has a predicted value of $10, you should only spend $3, right? And so you should have like this kind of distribution, which means for each account in your database, in your total addressable market, in your TAM, you should know ahead of time how much you're willing to spend based on the intent and the likelihood to buy. And when you wrap that up, it means that you have this prediction that evolves over time with the addition of signals in a given account. The more there is intent expressed, the higher your confidence in this company buying, and the more you're willing to spend, as you can see at the bottom here, like advertising, email, brand gifts, or live chats. Okay, so I want to say if you're ready to get started with buying intent, and you want some advice, or you just want some intros, just reach out to me. I'll be extremely happy to make intros to any of those companies or others. And with that, I wanted to say thank you.
was fantastic. I learned a ton. Definitely, I'm going to work on implementing some of this at Boast, and we've talked about it before. So thank you so much. And there's some questions around, like, what are your thoughts on demand-based? And I'm going to scroll through. We have limited time for questions. We'll take one or two, but if not, we'll share the recording. And lots of fans of you typing in the chat window. Obviously.
Okay.
I wouldn't
send me everything.
So, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, let me cut that here and let me end the showing so I can put my video up. Cool. Domain base, it's more on the ABM side, like Terminus and a couple of others. They're really good at enabling you to add some accounts in a list and advertise towards those accounts. Okay, but it doesn't really help you find out who are the right accounts. And so for that, you still need the signals. I have found something better than demand-based these days, these past couple months, actually. So I have a new secret weapon, and my new secret weapon, which I will share generously today, is called Metadata, metadata.io, because it is also an advertising platform, but it embeds some signals. So you can actually add your G2 Cloud API key. You can add your a couple of other inbound signals, and it connects to your CRM to look at the conversions and the pipeline generated, and it's going to loop back and change the bids dynamically based on the pipeline on a per ad group and also on Facebook. So that's really cool. So if you're thinking of demand based, do look at metadata and let me know. Reach out to me. Let me know what you think.
How do you see this scaling well for B2C startups as well?
Yeah. So, I mean, most of my experience is B2B, obviously. B2C, there's a couple of issues. One, there's legal issues, right? You capturing data on individuals in the US, you need to have permission, especially with CCPA coming along in California, so the California Protection Act, and then you have GDPR, right? The good thing about B2B is that B2B is not covered by either of those, right? And I'm taking public data. Okay, so all the data you saw, I'm not stealing anything. I'm taking data that's already on a public web page. It's already crawled by Google. And the law has been very clear, especially since the ruling of the 9th District last year of California, that anything that Google crawls, anyone else is allowed to crawl, which is what I do. For B2C, it's hard. You can start doing some things depending on the data you have. So like you take the IP address. From the IP address, you look at the location, and from the location, you can find like, is this like is this zip code a location which is high revenue, high income, how expensive are the houses there? You can start doing something like that. And I know some people who like change the website dynamically based on that. So if you're in a high income location, it's going to like showcase like high price products on the homepage. You can start doing something like that. People also use location for weather. So if it rains or if it's sunny for B2C products, people do that, or for games. So if you're in San Francisco and the 49ers lost, then you might want to change which products you're promoting. So some people do that, and there's other things, and you would have to look more in detail and find those signals. Logic stays the same, but you got to find signals that I don't know about.
Cool. What is the relationship here between, you talked about Sendoso and Postmates. What is the relationship here? Someone's asking, they use Sendoso but don't have the option to use Postmates.
Yeah. Yes, that is true. For that, you need either to reach out to me or ask your rep at Sendoso, because it is not a public feature. And that's the moat. Lloyd, the moat is to differentiate. So if you only look at what's possible, so if you're using Marketo and your competitor uses Marketo, like, how are you going to differentiate, right? And so I got two moats. One is taking new technology, new tools all the time, be on the cutting edge, and two, try to push those tools to give me access to stuff that is not publicly available. And so I reached out to Sendoso like years ago saying, all of this, what you do, those gifts, is great. How can I do real time? how can I have a real-time gift? And they told me, oh, well, we have gift cards and we do emails. I said, great, like everyone does that. And so they actually had integration to Postmates, which I didn't know, and they gave me access to that. And yeah, that is cool. So they actually have an unofficial like API access to Postmates to order real-time stuff to Postmates runners.
Awesome. And Andreas asks here, what do you think of Optimizely, number one, and then number two, are there any gotchas with multi-touch attribution?
Yeah. Oh, wow. So Optimizely was a great tool 10 years ago when A/B testing was all the crave. These days, you're not creating a moat through A/B testing. The moat these days is on personalized content and machine learning based tests. So what you're trying to create is a unique variation for each visitor. And so my tool of choice, my moat there is with IntelliMize, which is a platform that enables me to, well, actually, I'm not doing anything, but like the machine learning is looking at all the possible variations it has. So it combines blocks on the page to create a page that's unique for each visitor, looks at the conversion, learns from that, and then changes, optimizes as it goes. So personalized content with machine learning based testing is the way to go these days, which Optimizely does not offer, even in their Optimizely X package.
Cool. And then you talked earlier about metadata, but very briefly. Have you used or been using metadata? I'm curious.
Yeah, for sure. So I have one benefit, Lloyd, which is like I have 6 different growth teams that I manage through my different clients, right? And so I have a pretty a good view of all the tools. I can see results everywhere, and then I can replicate. So G2 Crowd, one of my clients, is a metadata customer, and they have been for a couple of months, and so I see really good results there. And now I'm replicating this the usage of this platform through my other clients. You know, the one thing that I have that's hugely beneficial is that, you know, in growth we fail often, and so I distribute the costs of learning, of losing, right? And I share among everyone the wins. And so it appears as I have a higher win rate, which is not true. My win rate is the same, it's just I distribute the costs.
Makes sense. Now, you know, for a bootstrap company, or like, you know, a small startup that want to be in the B2B space that wants to leverage some of this, what would be the best stack for them? Like maybe go and subscribe to metadata and, you know, it's one thing, they do everything, or is there like a one-stop solution so you're not stitching together multiple tools?
People are starting to build that. So Sana is looking at aggregating all of that. I would say, so if you're mid-stage, okay, the first obvious thing is to implement Clearbit Reveal. Like the highest intent that you're not leveraging is the people coming to your website and not not contacting you, or not buying, or not filling a form, not signing up. Okay, that's number one. If you have good enough traffic, go there. That one's obvious. Like, don't think twice. Then you can start looking at different intent signals. Right now, no one aggregates all, right? And so your most, let's say, valuable second stop is going to be G2 Crowd, okay? Because they have a data set of companies that are in an active buying cycle. If you go to a review website to read about different softwares, it's because you're thinking of buying. And so it's also very clear. It may be not as high conversions as people coming to you on your own website, but it's the second best. Okay, but to go to the answer, like of your question, like right now, this entire stack is custom, which is why it's a moat, which is why it's a defensible moat, because it's hard to replicate all of this.
Definitely. Question here from Nick is, given that we have all this data and we know our visitors who express intent, what's your advice regarding outreach to be unique and top of mind, but not being too forward or overwhelming?
That's a great question. It's a really, really good question from Nick here. So generally in my emails, and because we're thinking of like email outreach most of the time, I don't talk of my product. I don't talk of myself. I talk about them and the problem I think they're facing. Okay, so we talk delivery delays. Sure, that's an easy one. We scrape a lot of things. Like for example, one example, when we would scrape at Drift, we'd scrape the websites of prospects, and we'd look at the length of the contact form. Because I know that the more you have fields, the lower the conversion rate. And so we would screenshot that automatically, count the number of fields, inject that in the email, and we'd say, hey, Nick, I was on your website, and I saw you have like an 8-field contact form, which is really not optimal. And by the way, here's the data on the negative impact on conversion rates by number of fields. And we showed the chart, and we showed where they were on that chart. And said, if you remove fields, you're going to have higher conversion rates, you're going to have more leads, or you can have a chat. And that's it. I don't talk about us. I don't say, hey, can we talk? That's it, right? I'm just trying to be helpful. So delivery delays, I'm helpful. When you're changing technologies, I'm helpful. When you have too many fields on your website, I'm trying to be helpful, to bring value in my first email. Okay, to create trust. Say, oh, this is a good advice. Maybe these folks know something else. So that's what I try to do, because almost no one does that. Almost everyone says, hey, Nick, you have a great website. Can we talk? I'm like, man, that's not great. Like, I don't want to talk. Like, I don't trust you. So you got to create trust first.
Awesome. What is good enough traffic, web traffic for Clearbit Reveal?
So let's look at the number of leads you have. Let's imagine that you have, maybe, a couple hundred, maybe you have 100 leads a month. Okay, put it that way. You have 100 leads a month. And now let's say that you have maybe like, between 1,000 and 10,000 unique visitors a month, right? If you're in like MarTech, tech, or like you're selling to tech, let's say your Clearbit's IP to company match rate is going to be in the high 30s. If you're not in tech, it's going to be like in the high 20s. Okay, and so you're going to be able to find, like, let's say 20. Let's be conservative, like 25%. Okay, so if you have just 1,000 a month, you have 250 unique companies. Okay, that most of them you probably don't know about. Okay, and some of them might not be good, but the way Clearbit works is their match rate increases with company size. So you're more likely to find big companies, SMB to mid-sized companies, than really small ones, which is generally who we want. And so immediately you see, like, I'm already getting like 2x the volume of like accounts than people who express it to me. Because if you think about it, like 1,000 visitors a month, your contact engagement rate, people who fill your form, it's going to be like in the single-digit percentage, right? It's going to be like 5-6%. So that's like 60, right? So you're going from like a 6% to like 25% discovery rate, which is great. So you're tripling the potential. Lower intent, sure, but still. Right? Second thing I can say is that you should like start doing a sum. You can do it in a spreadsheet or in SQL. How many unique visitors do I have from that company over this month? Is it just one person seeing one web page, or is it 10 people seeing each 10 pages? Because then you have a very clear intent.
Awesome. That was it for questions. Actually, there's one more that I missed with Jacopo. Given the urgency to act before the buyer even gets to your website, and this is an interesting one because like we host conferences and so on. Do you think it makes sense to run events or like buy booths at events? And how does that all into the game?
Can I answer? Oh, now I have a load with Traction Conf, so like let's see how I can answer that one.
No, I mean you can be upfront, right?
Yeah. I think I have a way. There are good conferences and there are crappy conferences, really. And I usually, here's what I recommend. So I use MadKudu to do lead scoring and predict who's a good fit on my website based on my conversions. I have used that for conferences. What I'd say is that if you have like a $50K budget for a booth and you're interested in like two, three conferences, over the year that are interesting, and you want to understand like where do I put my budgets? If I were you, I'd ask like, hey, Lloyd or whomever else, like, give me an extract of either 100 visitors or if they can't share the visitors, just like companies that are coming to your conference, like, and they'll give you like the lists. I'm sure Lloyd you would share like, hey, like these are like this is a sample set of companies. If it's not, individual contacts coming to the conference, and you would run that through your model, your lead scoring, your fit model. Say, hey, are these people good fit for my business? Is this the right kind of company? Right? And so ideally you give like a title and the company name and look at that. And if the fit rate, so if the quality rate is comparable to what you get on your website or through your channels, go, because you're going to have very good engagement, right? And if it's not the right audience, don't go. Definitely don't go, because like then like there's just no point. And so always do that. And it's the same for intent signals. Like always ask for a data sample before to understand, is this relevant for me, yes or no?
Exactly. And you know what? See, our company Boast, we help businesses get government money for R&D. So we're selling to founders, CEOs of technology companies, right? And for us, the important thing is connecting with people in person, because it's the sale is always multi-touch. So we do events, we do conferences and so on, but we engage with them. Then I identify the right people, right signals, invite them to private things that we're doing that are not otherwise accessible to the general audience at a conference and so on, and that leads to huge conversions for us. So like everything, it's not binary, right? So you can combine things for multi-touch. Awesome. So we'll share the slides and go from there. But like, thank you so much, Guillaume. Actually, one question here: what are some of the best conversion resources you've seen, like on-demand webinar, blog, demo? I touched on that. For us, it's like multi-touch. But what are your thoughts there?
So the highest converting channel. There's a couple of answers. Is it like a highest percentage, or is it like lowest CAC, so highest efficiency? For me, the highest CAC LTV is outbound email. It costs nothing, clearly. Like sending emails costs me nothing, and with the right intent, as you saw, I get some campaigns at 18% response rate, right? But on average, I'm at 2% like deal creation rate. So it costs me nothing, and I get like return on investment. So like, yeah, that's hard to beat, right? And so that's one. If you look at the highest engagement, LinkedIn DMs these days, really, really high engagement on LinkedIn DMs. And again, like really, well, almost free. And then if it's interestingly, it really depends. Like at Gorgias, for example, this helpdesk company, business development team runs events and conferences like throughout the year, and they have insane results. But they've got a playbook for conferences and events, and they have really, really good returns. I think if you want to think of events, just to tap on the prior topic, you got to look at that as a professional. You got to go with a plan. It's just like any other campaign. An event is a campaign. If you do crappy emails, don't expect some good responses and some good returns. If you go with like a crappy strategy at an event, it's not going to work out. So you gotta outcompete everyone through the best experience and the best quality in your marketing. You got to differentiate at events. Do something different.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, Guillaume, because we're in a world where channels are getting saturated, messaging types are getting saturated very frequently, and your customers are engaged on different platforms, and everything is multi-touch. So saying like, oh, what's the one kind of email or what's the one kind of channel? I mean, LinkedIn DMs are working. People were saying LinkedIn voice notes are working, but tomorrow they may not. Facebook ads are become way more difficult to squeeze the same CAC from, right? And so what I've found for me, email is probably one of the best tools. Like, a way that I look at it is host really exclusive events. Like look at your customer base as a community, bring them together to learn something that will provide value to the problems and their lives beyond just what the product. Your product can be one piece of that whole puzzle. But bring that community together, host exclusive events online, offline, And then the first emails you're sending them are very personalized to invite them to something, not buy my stuff, right? And that's worked really, really well for us, where we've been doubling growth based on that kind of strategy.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for marketers who are moving from B2C to B2B, you got to remember that slide on the time to close, which is months. When it's months, it means that there's going to be multiple touches, which means you can't push for a close on the first touch. That is nonsense. It's almost insulting to the customer, right? Because you're trying to interrupt their flow of research. You should be helpful, help them do the research and show them why you're the best, right? But don't try to go for the throat at the first email. That's just not going to work.
Exactly. And if I would like take, before jumping into any of the tactics, map out your customer, map out like, sort of, I shouldn't like say persona too much, but map out who your customer is. Where do they eat, breathe, drink, sleep? Like essentially, who are the influencers? Map out the buyer's journey and every kind of campaign that's relevant through different points of a buyer's journey, and then use the technology to reach them. And that could be Sendoso, that could be email, that could be ads, it could be, sending Postmates to their door, right? But you need the other stuff beforehand, or else you're just spamming them.
Yeah, agreed. And so the way I describe that is you do a TAM analysis, the total addressable market analysis, and you end with a spreadsheet of all the companies in B2B that could one day buy your software, that are a good fit, and you calculate how valuable they would be. And if your pricing is based on seats or on companies or whatever, you can just like put that factor in and do a column and say, hey, this would be, their ACV, their contract value would be so much, right? And then you look into like, who do I want to sell to? Do I want to sell to the top of that market, the bottom of that market? And how do they behave? And can I learn something about their behavior? Can I buy that data, right? And you do all that analysis before you figure out like, what can I do to create a great experience? You can't start, if you start with the action, you're not going to learn anything, and you're not going to create a great experience. You got to start with a TAM analysis first and see, this is my buyer, this is the top companies, this is how much they would be valuable, this is how much I'm allowed to spend. And then keep in mind, if I have a $300 budget to convert an account, what is the best way to spend that $300? Okay, you got a piggy bank per account. How do you optimize that piggy bank? Is sending them 10 emails in a row that are not personalized the best way to optimize that budget? I would say no.
Exactly. See, we'll take one last question because I really like this one, and I probably try to ask it before. We talk about so many platforms and so many touch points. How do you sort of bring them all together, weigh them, and into a single solution kind of thing? How do you determine the efficacy of it? I kind of know, but you talked about like how you're all stitching it together, but probably some.
Yeah. So two sides to that. The one is like, how do we make it work, and then like, how do we analyze, I'd say, an attribution? How do we do attribution? Start with the last one. No one comes to me and say, oh, gee, we have attribution figured out. We know exactly, right? Attribution is a decision. Like an attribution model is something that you are deciding how valuable is each channel. I have never seen something which tells you exactly this is how valuable is that touch point for that customer. It's purely like a decision-based framework that you're putting in place. Okay. In my case, I have simplified it. I have found out that complex attribution models don't bring the value that I want, and they're hard to explain. And so I've created a simple model, which is the first touch within 2 times the time to close. If my time to close is 15 days, I will look at the first touch that created the op, and it's valid for 30 days. If the op has not closed in 30 days, it resets and the source goes to null. And then there's something else can recreate it. Okay, it's a very simple model, I admit, but it is very easy to explain to marketing and sales team. I think the value of an attribution model is to incentivize your teams for the right behavior. And in my case, it's creating ops.
Definitely. Awesome. That was fantastic, Guillaume. We went longer than we had planned, so I'm super thankful. And also thankful to our partners for bringing us together, Growth Marketing Conference, Lazarides Institute, Launch Academy, and Boast AI. Thanks, everyone, and see you at the next Traction webinar. Have a good one.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Lloyd.